So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Apple iPhone 12 1 year later. So I've had this phone for around about 1 year here, and it actually turned one just yesterday. So by the time you're watching this video on the 23rd, it's actually turned 1 year old. The iPhone 13 actually turned 1 month old today, but we'll talk about why this is even in the video frame here. You can get this phone still in purple, blue, green, white, black, and the product red color you see right here. 64 gigabyte runs you $699 right now. 128 is going to be $749, and a 256 gigabyte model is going to run you around $849. Now, my current thoughts on the body, the build, the design still feels like the same phone as the iPhone 13 with a little bit less weight over here for the iPhone 12. So 1 year later, I gotta say it's holding up well because Apple definitely plays it a little bit more conservative with their design changes, and they didn't change much here, but they have a genius way of just making you know which phone is the older phone. Look at the camera lenses, bigger and diagonal. You know that you're rocking the 13 if you have that, and if it's vertical, you know it's the 12. But don't let this fool you. Apple creates great phones every year, so that doesn't make the iPhone 12 a bad phone. And if you're looking to save a buck, you'll definitely still really like this. IP68 keeps it dust and water resistant, just like the iPhone 13. And this phone also had the ceramic glass as well. That was a new feature for last year, so that's also nice for the phone. 1 year later, I actually still prefer the weight of the iPhone 12 over the 13. I actually think the camera design is cleaner than that diagonal camera on the iPhone 13, but that's just my take. You might disagree with me, but overall, I gotta say, they did reduce that notch on the newer phone. Body, build, design, looks, it's still modern. If you pick this one up today, it's not gonna feel like some old archaic dinosaur phone. Like, differences you can see are things you have to really look for on the device. That's why I gotta say the iPhone 12 losing $100 off its price tag makes it a sweet deal compared to last year. Okay, so 1 year later, when it comes to the display of this phone, I want to talk about it a little bit more. Now, what really happened for 2021 here with the iPhone 13 is that they brightened up the display. But other than that, you will notice that the sharpness of the text and pretty much everything on the phone is just fantastic. It's still a very high 460 density. It's still the same size, 6.1 inches. Yes, slightly less screen to body because they reduced the notch. So here's the difference. You got usable 625 nits, and then it'll go to a 1200 nit peak if you are using HDR content or you get it out in the sun. It does raise quite a bit up. Overall, a fantastic premier display on this phone. 1 year later, I have no real feeling of a major upgrade on the 13. The 13 is a nice brightness change, but other than that, it's the same exact panel that we were working with last year. 60 hertz as well on here, so that's also pretty smooth because of iOS, but it's not quite 90 or 120. It's still a very good display that I have no problems recommending. It's also flat, so if you don't like curved displays, you'll like the fact that this is a flat display on here. Great contrast ratio. OLED technology is some of the best out there. Now, when it comes to software, this has got its first major update to iOS 15 on board. It makes this phone just feel, like an iPhone 13 basically in terms of the way the software works. As a matter of fact, I was running 15 on the iPhone 12 before I even had a chance to try out the iPhone 13. So it actually had the new software ahead of time. And that makes the actual experience, besides, some of the new stuff that comes with the iPhone 13, just feel the same. Like, it doesn't have the cinematic video in the camera, so you won't see that software right there. But still, with several years left of software support, with the new FaceTime features, with the new focus modes, there's a lot going on here in the way of software that you'll enjoy. It'll make this phone feel fresh. If you had an iPhone 11, for example, with the iOS 14, and then you got the iPhone 12 out of the box, it may have the iOS 15 already installed. It'll just look and feel a bit newer and different. Now, when it comes to that A14 Bionic chipset in here, this phone was always a rocket in speed. There was never ever an issue for me. Strong pretty much in every respect with performance. And then when you are running games, you do have Apple's GPU in here. You don't really stretch it too hard on Crossy Road. But when you're playing games, you got the power you need it is a, great overall efficient GPU and CPU combined. And you just notice it because the phone takes a little while to get warm. Some other phones, the minute you start playing a game, they get super warm, which tells me they're not quite as well optimized as what you might see here. So performance, a very strong suit of this device. Now, what about storage? Well, of course you can go 256 gigs. We talked about that. USB 2 lightning cable goes into this phone, so no universal standard USB-C. NVMe storage on here makes this pretty quick though, and we know AirDrop can transfer your files over very fast on this phone. It's quick storage, and you can get it with a decent amount at 256 gig. However, at that price, I'm not sure this is a deal anymore. $849, you already can buy, an iPhone 13, for example. You're close to the starting price of a 13 Pro. But if you find it on a deal or somebody's handing it off for a cheaper price because they want to get the newer phone and they can get it to you lower, 256 gig is not bad in terms of the storage amount. Now, 1 year later with the battery life on this phone, that's the area Apple focused on with the 13, and I cannot give it credit here. The 12 was not my favorite phone for making it through the day. The problem with it was that when I had the brightness up and I was snapping photos throughout the day and using the internet, I could find myself, getting a little bit nervous, down and around 30 and 20%, as I get middle through my day. So I've got to say the battery on this phone, it's not the best for a heavy user like myself, but if you're just a casual user, it's got enough battery for the majority of the consumer that would buy this particular device right here. Now, the cameras on here were always quite impressive for this device, and regardless of the fact that the iPhone 13 does let in more light for low light photography, the iPhone 12 is still a stunner. It can still do 4K at 60, and you can produce some amazing results on this phone. In 4K 30, you can do HDR content on here, which will brighten up video. You don't really need a 13 if you have a 12 when it comes to the performance here. Now, in terms of the portrait mode, you don't really get a cinematic video, so you'll have to use this for photos. You're not going to get blurry video on this one unless you maybe you bring things close, but it's going to not be super blurry in the background. That's where they brought the cinematic video to the iPhone 13 and improved things quite a bit. But I can tell you, most people are going to snap a photo on the iPhone 12 and they're going to be very happy with the results that they get. So if you take a look at the front-facing camera as well, this one was a 4K 60 affair here, and this one also could do some HDR in that 4K 30. You can see how they do switch as I do go through the modes here. I look way brighter here in the 4K 30, and if I go here to 60, get a little bit dimmer because we can't do the HDR. But I gotta say, man, the video on the front matches up good. And one thing I really enjoy about the iPhone video from the front is that Apple has it at a pretty good angle, so you don't have to be, the camera's not super close to your face, even if you're not reaching all the way out. It's got a pretty decent angle. And then if you go to the photo, you have the ability to come in and out on that photo. So that's also pretty awesome. These cameras are not disappointing. If you decide to pick this up now, you're going to be very happy. Take a look at a few samples I took over my year using this phone, and let me know your thoughts on the iPhone 12's camera. And audio, also pretty good.
Nick here, helping you to master your technology. iPhone 13 versus iPhone 13 Pro, which to choose. Now, I've had both of these for around about a month now, and
You can see audio, crispy, loud, clear. And then you got AirPods and Beats Studio Buds. You can buy things like that to help complement this device in terms of a great headphone experience. You have AirPods Max as well if you want to go all out. When we talk about phone call quality, this brought back the Qualcomm. So we did have good signal strength. We did have good speakerphone performance. This was a major change. And also with 5G, this phone had way faster mobile internet. So 1 year later, still, that's why it's still for sale at Apple, because there's nothing really super dated about this. They got to bring out a new phone every year. That's how we roll. That's what we got used to in this marketplace. So, we're going to see a new phone every year, but this one, very good in the connectivity strength. It still has the same Bluetooth 5.0 as well. I think the connectivity specs are exactly the same as a 13. So pretty much the same there. I want to conclude this video by answering the question, should you buy this phone now? It's 1 year later, and I know some people are going to say, Nick, bro, why are you trying to push a phone when you could easily just go buy the 13, get it at the same price? Or, hey man, they're offering me like $600 for my phone and I only got to pay off like $200. And there's a couple of people that this is still a good option for, the iPhone 12, and it really depends on your situation. But if you're buying this cash and you want to save, go for it. I mean, it's going to save you if you're paying this outright versus something like the 13. And if you find a third party, you're going to find it much cheaper than a third party iPhone 13 right now as well. So that's going to be great. If you know someone who wants to get a 13, they're trying to get rid of their 12, they might in fact sell it to you for several hundred less, especially if they know you and work out a deal with you. So that could be enticing as well. So overall, no, I don't think this is a better option than just pay the extra $100 and go get yourself the 13. But if your budget's a little more tighter, you're paying the full price and you don't need all those features, why not just save that extra 150? Remember, if you got taxes too, in your area, taxes go up as the number goes up. So it'll be more taxes on the iPhone 13 as well. So the 12 still around here. It almost feels like the same phone as this year with the iPhone 12. So I think you'll be very happy with it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you're going to do. Are you going to pick up an iPhone 12? Do you already have one? Do you plan on not getting one? Or you're like, I don't care about that phone. I haven't cared about that phone all year. Thumbs up. Let us know down below in the comments. I'll catch you all in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Nick here. Be sure to be well and peace.